Tasmania's new look ministry has been sworn in today after the Liberals were able to form minority government with the backing of Jacqui Lambie Network MPs. The three new crossbenchers will provide confidence and supply to the Rockliff-led government. Joining us with more analysis now is the University of Tasmania political scientist, Associate Professor Kate Crowley. Kate, appreciate your time. Thank you. Just how much do we know about the deal that was struck between Jeremy Rockliff and the Lambies, as they're being called?
Yeah, well, to their credit, it was put up on the government's website and circulated, so it's freely available. We know that the Lambies have offered confidence and supply, so there will be no motions of no confidence against the Rockliff minority government, and it will be able to pass its budgets. And we know that it'll run for a year. It has some policy concessions on transparency around integrity, political donation reforms and the like, the sort of issues that the Lambies were raising during the election. There's a bit of criticism that the Lambies have sort of left their hands a bit tied on voting in the House, but it remains to be seen how much that's going to be adhered to and what sort of impact it'll have.
Well, Jacqui Lambie herself had made a lot of noise in the campaign about the very controversial proposal to build a new stadium in Hobart. Was there anything on that front? Has there been any indication from the AFL they're willing to deal with the new political reality of minority government and renegotiate the terms of that stadium deal, as Jacqui Lambie had been calling for?
Yes, the rest of Australia is very keen on this, particularly the AFL supporters, to know the details. There hasn't been anything mentioned other than that the Lambies will get a full briefing from Treasury and the Secretary of Treasury about the state of the budget, including the stadium development. The euphemism for that was including the Macquarie Point development. So what the Lambie MPs will do next is unknown, and the stadium wasn't mentioned in the agreement. I have to say the agreement is fairly... it's not very precise about policy. There aren't any precise policies that have been delivered to the Lambies, but then they didn't really ask for anything specifically leading up to the election. They more or less said that they would be coming in to bring about some stability, some transparency, accountability, including for the stadium.
I assume Labor's doing a bit of soul-searching now after the results. Kate, just a quick recap for our viewers. Essentially, the Labor leader, Rebecca White, suggested on an election night that she thought she could cobble together a minority government, then changed her mind the next day, conceded and has now resigned as leader. How controversial within the party was that decision? I assume there would have been some very strong views at either end, with some wanting Labor to go for it and others just so opposed to Labor having anything to do with the Greens that they felt opposition was a safer bet.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the feelings about this have been so strong that they've spilt out into the public, which you know that parties like to keep their infighting behind closed doors. But Rebecca White, this is her third election loss. And on the night, she didn't concede defeat. She said, look, we have an uncertain result and it's entirely possible for Labor to form government. There are 5 Greens, there are likely to be 3 independents, there's Jacqui Lambie MPs, so it's entirely feasible for us to form government. We're going to wait and see what happens next. But the next day she said, well, I've had a think and I'm now going to resign as leader and concede to the Liberals, which delighted the Liberals. And then subsequently it came out that her hope to form a government was overturned by Labor's administrative committee, who wouldn't have liked the look, as you say, at all of partnering with the Greens. Labor's done that twice, and both times they've suffered electorally in the wake of that. And I think some wise heads in the party remembered that and said, let's let the Rockliff government try and deal with this difficult, fractious minority period, and we'll just wait.
And how long do you think they'll be waiting? There have been suggestions, as you know, that Tasmanians could be back at the polls before too long. How solid do you expect that minority government will be?
Yeah, well, we've had 3 minority governments since 1989, all supported by Greens. The first 2 lasted 18 months to 2 years, so not long. Formally, they may have gone a bit longer, but the arrangement fell apart. But the third one ran its full term of 4 years. And strikingly, it was between Labor and the Greens got ministries because Labor had such an atrocious vote, they couldn't fill a cabinet. And that lasted really well on the back of quite a good but relatively flexible agreement. So I think what we're looking to now is the government needs one independent to get the numbers. The 3 Lambie MPs isn't enough. So what people are looking to now is that this final agreement, which with whichever independent it is that sort of agreement that gives that sort of stability that we saw between 2010 and 2014 with the Labor and the Greens.
Time will tell. Kate Crowley, appreciate your analysis. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.